Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Expert to Authority show. And today we are talking about love languages, talking about the five love languages. We're going to talk about which are the keys to better personal and business relationship. I'm here with my good friend Pete Bennett, who is going to we're going to get started initially to understand about why this topic was so important for him, because this is an episode that came from the back of conversations that happened privately over the past, shall we say, 4 years.
Yeah.
About 4 to 5 years. And so, Pete, quick background about you, your business, and how did you get and why was it important for you to learn about the love languages?
Okay. Well, yeah. Quick background. I've had many businesses over the years. Some have worked, some haven't. Some have made a lot of money. Some haven't. But I've also had something which is really significant in my life, which is a divorce. And I know you're married, Simone, and I hope that you never ever go through a divorce because to show a little bit of vulnerability, it pretty much killed me. It cost me an awful lot of money, years worth of hard work and sacrifice. But more importantly than that, the emotional cost was um, just beyond description. I mean, I've had serious back surgery, spinal surgery, and I thought that was painful. Going through a divorce, without the help of the young lady whose name I won't mention, who was my therapist, who introduced me to the five love languages, I honestly don't know how I would have made it through. I've said this before. I'm probably too arrogant to do anything really silly, like commit suicide.
Hmm.
But I can certainly see how people in that situation would. And although I didn't commit suicide, it took me to places where I don't want anybody else to have to go, particularly as it's so easy to avoid it. If I'd have known about the five love languages and taken them seriously, then my relationship, um, romantic relationship with my wife, I'm sure would have been very different and better. But also, there is parallels in the business world where the five love languages can really help your business relationships, whether that's with staff or whether that's with suppliers, customers, go so much better. So for something which is so simple, um, I think it's worth taking the time to learn to avoid pain and get extra gain for the sake of reading a very short book. And
Hmm.
the book I'm quoting here is The Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. So
I agree with you. It is an important element. I was glad to be exposed to the five love languages quite early. So, and when I've learned it, it was incredibly eye opening. And what I appreciate about this conversation is also that sometimes we, we we look at people that are very successful in business, like you've been, made build companies, sold companies, you did very well for yourself, but then we don't see sometimes the cost or what cost comes that success, and also um, the personal struggles that people have to go through, or that people are going through while you're keeping a brave face and showing up no matter what, because you have a business, while a big part of your personal life is going in completely like the opposite direction.
yeah, and
And not many people talk about it, because we should be able to deal with everything, right?
yeah, and as a business leader, particularly where you've got a lot of people relying on you. I mean, if you think about it, you've got your wife, potentially your family, your staff. Um, there's a lot of pressure, and it all comes to a single point, which is you. And men, particularly, are very, very bad at seeking help for anything other than something practical or financial. We just don't do it because we see it as a sign of weakness.
Hmm.
Um, and as we've spoken before, um, I think to reach out for help is probably the hardest and the bravest thing that men will ever do, whereas the perception is that it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
And I normally say, if you think that, that you're strong and you're coping with this on your own, just give me 1 hour in a room with you, and I'll show you what it's really like to be strong, because it means making yourself vulnerable. What we're doing now isn't typically a masculine thing. We're talking about emotions. As men, we're not allowed to have emotions. At least societally, we're not. Um, at the risk of being a bit controversial, but when has that ever stopped me? The media is full of feminism and women's stuff, and all of this stuff about empowerment, and let's get all the buzzwords in, gender wars, all this kind of stuff. But for men, who are I don't know why my just stop that happening. For men who the suicide rates are higher for men than they are for women. There's almost no help, and there is a huge stigma about reaching out and getting help, and it's just wrong, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. So if I can do my little bit to help that.
And that's and that's why we are here. I know it took you many years to open up and talk about this because of how deep it was. So let's talk about the five love languages and how, and in particular, just to set the frame of this interview, there is going to be things that also women are going to pick up from it, absolutely. But this is just to give the framing. This is from the perspective of a man. That's what we are, and we are not saying that other causes, other things are not important. No, we are just, this is the context of this particular episode. And if you're a man listening, then make sure, please use what you're learning here, what you're going to learn. And also, if you're a woman listening, then you might be able to understand better what sometimes men can go through, and also you will be able to integrate some of the things of the five love languages in your personal business life. So let's start with the five love languages, because I know there was a big aha moment when you were going through therapy and your therapist helped you out understanding the five love languages. That was your big aha moment. So let's get an overview of the five love languages. Why are they important?
Okay, so the five love languages are important because it's the way that you naturally are able to receive love or feel loved or feel appreciated. But let's keep to the word love. So it's not the way that you give love. And I wish I could stop this Discord thing popping up. I have no idea how to stop it. It's not the way that you receive love. Give love. It's the way that you receive love. And it's important because much like a normal natural language, if partner's love language or your staff's love language or your suppliers, customers' love language, then you'll be speaking and they won't be picking up the same messages that you're transmitting. So there'll be a complete mismatch. A little bit like I don't speak Italian, you speak Italian. We would be able to get on by gestures, sign language, body language, etc. But we won't really be able to connect in the same way that if I was a native speaker.
L'intervista non sarebbe la stessa se io parlo italiano.
Exactly. Yeah. I have no idea. I'm sure what you said was nice, and I at least I hope it is. But I don't know what you're talking about, and this is the kind of conversation that you're going to have with someone where, particularly, if it's an intimate relationship or an important relationship, and you're just going to be speaking at cross purposes. That simple as that. So
what are the five love? What are the five love languages? Let's start giving them.
I'm going to go through them one at a time, rather than reel them all off. I'll go through them one at a time, and this is the challenge to the audience. As I go through them, pick the one primary love language out of the five that you consider to be your love language, and you can't wimp out. You can have one primary and one secondary only. So everybody has got some elements of all of these, but the important thing is to man up and choose one as your primary. And I think for most people it's pretty easy to do, and one secondary. And also write down the love language that you think is the love language of your significant other, your partner, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever. Um, and an interesting exercise afterwards is to share this concept with them and see whether they agree. Because if you've got it wrong, it's not long before lawyers get involved typically. So let's go through them. First one is, and no sniggering, physical touch.
Physical touch,
Physical
first
touch.
one.
Right. I'm not talking about full-on sex, although I could be. I'm talking about physical touch, ranging from a handshake. With a lady, particularly, you might want to put your hand on her arm and guide it into a seat at a restaurant. So rather than just gesturing towards the seat that you've clearly pulled out for her, being a sexist gentleman, because she's perfectly capable of pulling the seat out for herself. However, if you do that, that's also another love language, which we'll come on to later on. Physically guide her gently and non-sexually into the chair, and if her primary love language is physical touch, that's going to resonate with her and make a connection. Right? In a business context, with different cultures, we talked about this before. You're Italian. You, as a culture, are quite touchy-feely.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so handshakes, man hugs, all that kind of stuff. That's natural to you. In
Kisses on
Japan,
the cheeks when we see it, when maybe
yeah,
someone that we
I've
never
seen
met
it.
before. Is that?
I sometimes wonder about you, like, honestly, I really do. But yes, it's definitely touchy. Whereas if you're in Japan, for instance, which is one that most people probably know is fairly distant, personal space is bigger, then it's not even a handshake. It's a bow and it's a distance. And if you were to turn up for a business meeting in Tokyo and start hugging and kissing and being all Italian, even though you're transmitting to them that this is friendly and this is what we do, they're going to receive it probably as a threat.
Yeah.
Certainly as being rude, and it's not going to endear them or endear yourself to them. In relationships, intimate relationships, again, I'm not talking about full-on sex, although obviously that's part of it. Some lesser things in terms of intensity, holding hands. That's one of my favorite things to do. I honestly love to walk around a park or whatever, holding hands. That makes me feel close. Sitting in front of the TV and watching a movie, nothing better than a cuddle for me. But is that your partner's love language? Is that your partner's love language?
I had actually we had this conversation with my wife because my primary love language is physical touch. So I feel appreciated when I get cuddles, when I get caresses, when I can feel my partner in that sense. And when you're watching a movie, like we're there on the sofa, like lying down, and I'll be there, and she thinks she calls me the cat because it's like, well, why are you like a cat? And of course, actually, physical touch is the least in the category, is the last in the category of her love languages.
Right.
So it's the way I feel love, and she needs to make an effort for me to feel love in that way.
Yeah.
And I would need to make an effort for when we'll get there. I'll share what my partner love language is.
Yeah.
But that's what makes me feel loved. Like, just give me a cuddles when you're watching something, or hold my hand, or give me a pat on the back or something, and I'm the happiest kid in the world.
Yeah. And now that you've had that conversation, she will be aware that for you to feel loved, there needs to be physical touch. Whether or not she likes it, and we'll talk about her love language later on, you won't feel right unless there's physical touch. And sorry to say it, but the cause of many affairs is not the need for sex, it's the need to feel loved.
Yes.
And again, ladies, believe this or not believe it, but the reason a lot of men stray is not to get extramarital sex, it's to get extramarital feelings of being loved and appreciated. I'd even go so far as to say many men will have sex with women when they don't necessarily want the sex, they want the cuddle afterwards, but the sex is the work required in order to get the cuddle afterwards. I can probably hear women shaking their heads in disbelief, but it's actually true.
It's true.
So sometimes men will go out and subject themselves to performance anxiety and considerable financial cost and risk, and have an affair just to get the cuddles. Mad. You can't, and that's one thing, you can't buy it. You cannot go to a prostitute and buy a genuine cuddle. You can buy
No.
a facsimile of it, and you can buy sex, but you can't buy the cuddle. At least not an authentic one. So there you go, ladies. Give them a hug.
That's the first one.
That's the first one. Next one, words of affirmation, being affirmed in what you do as being appreciated by your partner. So examples are, I really thought that you did that extremely well. I'm very proud of you. Wow, I am so impressed. I can't believe that out of all of the men in the world that I could have been with, I'm with you. I'm so happy. So affirming your position. And of course, the same goes the other way, but we're focusing on men. Goodness knows there's plenty of stuff out there for women. So this is for the gents. So ladies, here's what not to do. Here's what not to do. Don't nag and be negative, because that's not affirming. When he comes home from work, the first thing to do is to tell him how much you appreciate him. And then he's more likely to come home to you rather than go and have an affair. Because if his primary love language is words of affirmation and he's getting nagged, that's actually the opposite to what he needs. And
It's going to drive him. It's going to drive him away and not be receptive, even for the request that you will have, or that the woman will have. Absolutely.
So nagging somebody about not spending enough time with them, which again we'll come on to as a love language, if their love language is words of affirmation, you're actually giving them an aversion to being with you. So just by showing appreciation and affirmation, you can turn somebody who dreads going home into somebody who can't get home quick enough.
Yeah.
Again,
and I gotta say, that's my second love language.
Yeah.
That's words of affirmation. If my wife says, "Hey, I'm really proud of you. I love you," or "Hey, you did that great. I really enjoyed the time." Whatever she says that is a positive reaffirmation, then makes me feel great, makes me love her even more. And that was one of the things, actually, when we went through therapy with my wife, we worked through. Because that was one of the things that I brought to the table. Actually, it always feels I'm doing things wrong. It always feels that no matter what I do, is never good enough. And that wasn't true in her mind, but the way it was expressed and the lack of acknowledgement then created that feeling in me. And once we were able to understand that part of the dynamic, then our relationship became better, because I didn't feel that was a failure as a man or as a husband, because I also had the positive reinforcement that made me feel good about myself, so I could feel good in the relationship.
Yeah. And the sad thing is, many people think things but don't say it. So, she might think, I'm really proud of you, but mind reading is not one of the 5 love languages. So
that's exactly what she said. Is like, but of course I love you, but of course I'm proud of you, but of course, I was like, for me it's important to hear that. Like for you it's important for me to show up on time, or then we're going to go into our love languages and so on. But that's important for me, and that changed the dynamic of our relationship 100%.
Yeah, and it's all of them are important, but vocalizing things for people who need words of affirmation, the clue's in the name, isn't it? They need to hear the words. It's no longer, logically you could say, I love you, darling, and please assume that condition persists unless advised otherwise. That's not the way to do this. You have to keep affirming over and over again that they're still appreciated, because this is not logical. This is an emotional thing, and you can learn it. If you know that if that's her love language, go out of your way to say things and give her compliments, even if it feels a bit corny to you and a little bit over the top. And you develop that habit, and it becomes part of the bonding mechanism between you.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
how
worth.
about in the business sector? How do you translate that in the business world?
Um, it's actually very similar in that if one of your employees does something really well, tell them. Don't always wait for people to screw up and then tell them off. Give them um, give give them compliments. Obviously, not creepy compliments, but compliments about their work. Even if you assume that you're paying them to do that, and therefore that's part of their job. uh, People work for money because they need it, but they often stay in a job because they feel valued.
Hmm.
And as a manager, then it costs you literally nothing to to make them feel good, and they're more likely to work better if they feel good. Also, if you're not a manager or a company owner, um, and your boss gives a really good presentation or does something well, tell them. It's not brown nosing as
Hmm.
long as it's not done in a sort of supercilious way, or a way which is obviously to curry favor.
Yeah.
Tell them. Um, I've been at the top of companies as you have, and would you ever be offended if a subordinate gave you some attaboys?
No, I love them even more. Being
Yeah,
words of appreciation being one of my love languages, it happens also in business.
yeah,
So they get something back even if they don't want to, even if they don't want anything back.
yeah. So I think in some ways, maybe I don't know whether this is a cultural thing as well, but British people are quite reserved and sometimes
Yeah.
find it difficult to be expressive and show appreciation. Um, but we should do it more. I mean, why not make a resolution like tomorrow? Tell somebody something that you like that they've done or
Mm.
said or are, and see what the reaction is. And if you get fired,
Then it was not the right place for you to work in the first place, I would suggest.
yeah, you're right. So words of affirmation is the second
All right,
one.
that's the second. What's the third one?
The third one, again, no sniggering, acts of service.
Acts of
Again,
service.
I'm not talking about things which are sexual, although it could be. I'm talking about doing something for someone that they like, irrespective of whether
Hmm.
you like it. So, um, at the simplest level, it could be offering, or not offering, but taking the trash out, taking the rubbish out.
Hmm.
It could be um, clean the wife's car and tell her afterwards that you've just cleaned the car
Hmm.
because you want to express your love and appreciation. Um, Breakfast in bed is a great one. Don't wait till Valentine's Day. Take them breakfast in bed. I don't know if you're a bit older. Warm the slippers. Just do something that is proving
Prepare
they're
prepare the
thoughtful.
hot water bottle before going to bed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's often the little things, um, not the big things. Like remembering what they like to drink, and then
Yeah.
bringing them that drink without being asked to do it. So serving them. Um, and again, it doesn't have to be massive grand gestures.
Mm.
Little things um, show that you've put the thought in and you're
And that's what's important for in that case for that person. I'm very familiar with this because act of service is actually my least favorite, like my least important in my own rank of
yeah,
the five love languages, but actually it's my wife most important. And what's unique about our relationship is that my least important is the most important, and vice versa. So we
right,
actually had to learn, and that's we went through therapy for that, but we had to learn on really think about the other person, because here is about, as you're mentioning, it's not about giving love in the way you want to receive love, but it is giving love in the way the other person feels loved. And I that used to the actor service parties used to drive me mad
hmm
because I didn't know what would mean for what an act for service was for her or what was important on her list. So
yeah,
recently I started doing something that it actually had really brought us closer together. Like she was like, "Oh my God, I love you so much. You're amazing." It's like, "Well," and I asked her, "Okay, so tell me, what are all the things that are that are bothering you right now. You know, all the things that you have in the back of your mind that you are able to see, but I'm not seeing because I'm not in your mind. But of course, she expects me to see them, right? I say, no, I don't see them. So tell me. So I just went down and spent like 20 minutes with Notepad. Type like, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me. And then I started doing throughout the week. I started doing these things, checking them off. Bam,
Yeah.
bam. For her, I don't think I never saw her so in love with me. It's like, oh my god, like you're the best, and but it is a conscious effort because I need to put my head down and say and think to myself, okay, I need to do something because it's important for her.
Yeah.
Because naturally I will not do it.
Yeah. It's not about you. It's about her, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Um, I mean, that's example I gave right at the very beginning with pulling, a lady's chair out so she can sit down. I mean, of course, she's fully capable of doing it herself, but if you do it for her, again, you're providing a
Yeah.
service to her and showing that you care. With staff, um, I don't know whether I know you and I shared an office at one stage. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I used to occasionally cook the staff a barbecue or go out and get food or something, which is it's a pleasurable thing to do, but it's not the same as hiring caterers in,
Yeah.
because you're making the effort to do something for them. Even just holding the doors open and things like that, it means it means a lot to some people,
Yeah.
if their love language is acts of service. Um,
Um,
it's
there we
not,
are.
and this stuff isn't hard, is it? This is the thing. It's not
Yeah.
complicated. You just need to think of it. So that was number three. Should we move on to number four?
Let's move on to number 4.
Right. And again, this is a contentious one sometimes. Receiving of gifts. Receiving
Hmm.
of gifts.
Why do you say it's a contentious one?
Because the moment you admit that one of your love languages is receiving of gifts, then um, you're into the territory of gold diggers, uh,
Right. True.
hypergamy. If you've heard that word, particularly for women, women that go out with men just because they get showered with
Yeah.
gifts. Now
Yeah.
there are women like that. We've all known them. There are. I was going to say there are men like that, but actually there are far more women like that. Hypergamy is baked into the female psyche,
Mm-hmm.
but um, it's not about going out with or the value of the gift particularly. It's not about buying them expensive gifts. It's about thinking about the gift that they like and actually doing it.
Mm.
So the classic is flowers. When do men give women flowers? Um, Normally Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
and when they've screwed up, right? And the
The
size of the
sorry
flower,
flowers. The
yeah,
sorry flowers.
sorry flowers, yeah. Um, But if her love language is receiving of gifts, rather than going and spending £100 because it's Valentine's Day or because you've just screwed up, just just go to the supermarket or the petrol station, buy a fiver's worth of daffodils unexpectedly and give them to her.
Mm.
It's not the daffodils; it's the sentiment.
Yeah.
Um, Go out of your way to find something that she would appreciate as opposed to just clicking on a website. I don't know, she collects fridge magnets. Go and get her a really nice fridge magnet. It honestly doesn't matter what the item is. It's the
Mm.
exchange of the gift which makes them feel
Yeah.
special. Um, how do you feel? I actually don't like receiving gifts. To me, it's
That's one of
inconvenient.
my. Neither for me and my wife is that important. Let's say it sits mid of the list.
Yeah,
So if I have them, it's nice for that moment. I would appreciate it. If I don't, it's like I don't. If there are other things in place, I prefer other things. And my wife is the same.
yeah. So it's not a big deal for either of you.
No, in fact, like most of the time when we are thinking about actually what gift are we buying for each other, if even for birthdays, we are thinking, okay, what experience we want to have. And actually, instead of buying something physical, we will go and have an experience for each other or,
Yeah,
booking a flight somewhere because that material part is nice to have in that moment, but after is quickly forgotten compared to other things that can be more
yeah,
important.
yeah. I agree. And with some people, who really don't like receiving gifts, it can be a turn off because it makes them feel obligated, it makes them feel uncomfortable.
Right, because now they need to feel obligated to give that gift back, and because it's
Yeah,
not their love language, then
yeah. And that's why sometimes buying expensive gifts is even worse because I don't know. Let's be silly to make a point. You go out and spend £1,000 on a watch and give it to someone, then suddenly they feel they've got £1,000 obligation back to you,
Yeah,
which can be really stressful, particularly if the person is struggling. So
yeah,
giving gifts can sometimes be really unkind. Um, and also it makes them feel that you're trying to buy their favor. So I'm very careful with gifts, probably because it's not my love language, but I'm also aware of how uncomfortable it can make people feel.
yeah.
So,
Or it can make people fall in love with you if it is their love language.
yeah, yeah, completely.
So
Yeah,
that's that. And I gotta say, one of the ways I think, because I think I never had this conversation, but I've got one of my business partners in the funnel building agency that we have, that she makes a point every time it's my birthday or for Christmas, she will go out of her way to make incredible gifts. She will go out of her way. My assumption is, in fact, her birthday is coming up and I'm going to test it out. But my assumption is that their love language is actually gifts.
could be. Yeah,
Because that's what she's been doing with me and Lovelda. Like every time there was a gift, and she does it with her heart. So my assumption is that. So I'll test it out during her birthday, which is coming up in 3 days. So, all right. What we've got?
yeah,
What's the fifth one?
yeah. So but that's an important point that you make. People, in the same way that you speak Italian and are comfortable speaking Italian, you're usually more comfortable giving in the way that you want to receive. So
Yeah.
you normally assume that the other person's love language is the same as yours, and given that there's five of them, there's only a 20% chance that it is. So check.
And that's what creates problems
Yeah,
because we can give love in the way we want to receive it
yeah, but often,
without thinking actually what the way they want to receive it.
yeah. So you could be expressing love and actually, by doing so, making them feel repelled from you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, cool. Right, last one, and this is something that as a business owner, um, it's very easy to screw up, and that's quality time. Quality time, not just time, but quality time. And it's something that if that's her love language, there is no way that you can substitute that with any of the other five love languages. So you can't throw
Hmm.
money at it. £1,000 watch ain't going to cut it. It's no good telling her how brilliant she is as a businesswoman, or how amazing her Yorkshire puddings are if if cooking's her thing. Quality time, and as a business person, this is ever so difficult because
Yeah.
there's always something more important that crops up that has the possibility of interrupting that quality time. And to be a bit extreme, to make the point, if you've promised quality time and you don't deliver, it's tantamount to saying, um, I don't love you anymore, or even I hate you, because I'm deliberately I
Mm.
taking that time and using it on something which I consider to be more important. And there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than telling someone that they're not significant to you, particularly if you love them.
That was that's actually that's Lovalda's second love language is quality time, and that was the trigger that got us to go to the first therapist. And then we were 1 year in our marriage, so I was thinking like I was complete failure as a man. So it's like I cannot make this work in a year, and we are already here in therapy. But the first year was one of the worst, and the reason why was that I was working so much. And I think that a lot of men that run a business can relate. That you had that experience, like you work so much that your business is the main priority, but not because you don't love your partner. It doesn't have anything to deal with the love that you feel for your partner. I can love my partner to death, but business, I was spending so much time on the business that what was missing for her was quality time, because there was no quality time. There were broken promises. Oh, yes, we're going to do this. Oh, I've got this business meeting coming up.
Yeah,
Cancel. As you mentioned, that's a stab in the back. That means I don't love you, you're not important to me. And because I was not having time as well, I was not able to do actor services, which require also time to do the
Yeah.
actor service because I didn't have any time aside. And that's why things got so sour after the first year,
Yeah.
because I wasn't giving her I wasn't making her feel loved, and I wasn't making her feel appreciated. And that was because I was spending way too much time on my business.
Yeah. And I think I was the same in many ways. Um, and the ironic thing is, I was working really hard to build a business to make enough money so that we could have more quality time in the future.
Yeah.
So the time horizon was wrong. And the problem with quality time, it's a little bit like oxygen. You need it all the time. You can't say, well, just hold your breath for a year and then you'll have all the fresh air you want because we'll be retired. We can go and live by the seaside, by the country. You've got to keep giving it. Um, you know, I'm not doing sackcloth and ashes because my wife could have told me more, and we could have, both made changes to make that happen. So I'm not saying that I was always the bad guy, but it's so easy to get
Mm.
into this where um, business comes first, and things which are not important in inverted commas get cancelled. I didn't have kids, but I can imagine it's where the similar thing, like I know you're supposed to be going to watch little Johnny sing in the choir for the first time, but an important client comes to town, and you skip going to see them
Mm.
sing, which is not that important to you, but that could crush them forever that you haven't
Yeah.
made that time for them.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you translate this to in the business in the business sector, like for your
really
employees?
simple, really simple. Um, if you manage a team, I'm guessing that you have team meetings, or more usually and more importantly, one-to-one meetings with your staff. So
Hmm.
never skip a one-to-one, because that's quality time, and it could well be that that if it's only say once a month one-to-one meeting, or once every few months, or once a week, whatever, that's a big deal to that person.
Yeah.
And if you skip that for anything other than a medical emergency, then that's saying that there are more important things to you than them, within reason. I mean, obviously we've got businesses to run, but
Sure.
if you consistently don't show up, or rearrange one-to-ones, then that's clearly saying that time is my time is not um, for you.
Yeah.
Therefore, I don't value you. And again, giving them a pay rise, giving them a bonus doesn't matter. It's the currencies are not interchangeable.
That's the message that you're sending out. So let's so we have a physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, and act of service. So these
That's
are
right.
the five love languages that we have discussed. Before we wrap up, I have a question for you. What would you say to men that where you were, was that like 7, 8 years ago? That's 7, 8 years ago, where like that they don't make time for that with their business. It becomes so important for them that, and they have the right intention, they do it for their family, they want to do it for their future, but then somehow
Yeah,
they neglect the other person.
I think the first thing.
Neglect is a
Yeah,
strong word, so
no,
don't
no,
show love.
no, no. I
Yeah,
know what
no,
you mean.
neglect is the wrong word.
Well, I think it's not. It's neglecting to take the time to realize that you both have love languages, and at the very least, you should both read that book, or an abstraction of that book, and talk about it. And then, if quality time is important to her, then make sure that you put quality time in the diary, and make that as important as a business meeting. Um, but also recognize that it has to be a two-way street. And as a man, we do tend to take the world on our shoulders, and always try and but carry the burden on our own.
Hmm.
It's okay to talk to your wife or your partner and say, look, I'm feeling really stressed. I know that you need quality time. I need quality time with you. It's just really difficult at the moment. And can I ask for your words of affirmation or physical touch um, as a down payment on quality time later on? But you have debts come with interest. So if you do it once a week, maybe it's date night. Date night's a great idea, by the way. Take your wife
Yeah.
out on a date. Um, that's quality time, isn't it? And lots of other things can happen there: physical touch, acts of service, pull the chair out, go home, bit of rumpy pumpy. Make schedule some of that in. Um, but recognize that this stuff comes with interest. So if you skip date night,
Yeah.
then eventually date night turns into a 2-week holiday that you owe her and by extension owe each other. Um, but it's a question of being grown up and cognizant of this. And I honestly don't know why this stuff isn't taught in schools, because it isn't difficult, is it?
Hmm.
It's not hard. What we've just talked about isn't hard.
No.
Um,
And is the base of human communication. I mean,
yeah,
the way someone feels loved and appreciated, they feel loved and appreciated within that relationship or within a friendship or within the work environment. Like, change the context. We're not just talking about a romantic relationship, and but it's all the relationship. We all have the same way of experiencing love and feeling
yeah,
appreciated, feeling valued, feeling wanted, which
yeah,
is deeply inside what we want as human being. That's what makes us fit in. That's what gives us the feeling of belonging somewhere or to someone.
completely. And you know, the thing I really like about this is that there's lots of sort of deep psychology and clever stuff, but this is just dead simple. Um, and so if you haven't had the conversation about this with your significant other, do it this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Take some quality time, go on a date together, and take this list and go through them. And honestly, I think it could literally save marriages.
Oh, save mine.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
saved mine big time, and I'm eternally grateful. That's why I wanted to talk with you, because when you mentioned that now you were like that you wanted to talk not only about your experience, what you've learned, but also the 5 love languages. Okay, this definitely needs to be a podcast episode. I know that. So for you, like, if someone wants to get in touch with you, because there might be some people that can definitely relate with your story, that where maybe things either are, hopefully it's not too late, or they see that they need some help. What's the best way to get in touch with you, and what's the next step?
well, the best thing to do is just reach out to me on Facebook at Pete Bennett UK. So PETEBENNETT UK, and we can have a chat. I mean, I don't have a product to sell. I'm not pushing anything here, but I'm happy to have a chat. Um, and I would urge men, particularly, to stop trying to pretend to be strong and present an image of being strong, and actually be strong instead. Rather than trying to look strong, actually
Hmm.
be strong and reach out, whether it's to me or to other people, and actually start having the conversations. Um, because it's going to cost you a lot of money if you're married and it goes wrong and you don't, but it could cost you more than money. And I think that's when I've never done alcoholic stuff and things, but they say that the time to stop drinking is when it's costing you more than money. And
Yeah.
I would say the time to stop trying to look strong is when it's costing you more than money, because it could end up costing you your life. And that's pretty weak, really, to not reach out, isn't it?
It is. It is. Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you. We went on the 5 love languages, talked about your story, and of course, like, if you're a woman listening to this and you know a man that could benefit from this message, maybe your own partner, maybe a friend, send them this interview, share it to 1 or 2 people. You can save their life, you can save their marriages. The impact of for them listening to this conversation is going to be deeper than probably you think. And then secondly, if you're if you're a man, then you're listening, just make sure you reach out if this message is relevant for you. Learn about the five love languages, read the book, reach out to Pete, have a conversation. In this case, because that can really help. Pete, any final message before we wrap up? Or
The only final message is actually do it, as opposed to just say you're going to do it and then run away, because some men will be frightened to do this because this is uncomfortable territory. So actually do it. Prove you're strong by actually doing it.
prove you're strong by actually doing it. Pete, thank you very much. And everyone else, thank you for joining, thank you for watching, or thank you for listening. And until next time, remember that together we grow exponentially.
Thank you.
Ciao.
It's my absolute pleasure. Bye for now.